Hi guys, I'm Darren, and in this video, hopefully it's the last one in a while for how to update ETHOS. Now, I'm not meaning that in a bad way at all. It's just that there have been a few different ways to update ETHOS over the last year or so. And it is a brand new system. It has had a lot of updates, so it's unsurprising. But now there is a tool that basically takes care of everything when we're updating. Well, almost everything. So the process today is to show you how to update using ETHOS Suite. And this really does take all of the hard work out of everything. If you've updated using any of the old methods, there's no more getting the right firmware, there's no more getting the SD card contents. You don't even need to worry about the bootloader anymore. It's all taken care of with ETHOS Suite. Now I'm going to be demonstrating this on my X20S, which is currently on version 1.2.8. There are some caveats. To do the bootloader update, you do need to be on a certain version of ETHOS or above. To do ETHOS Suite at all, you need to be on 1.2 or above. So if you are below those versions, check out the last video, which I'll put a link to in the video description, which shows how to do the bootloader update to get you onto a bootloader that can handle these updates. Once you're at that stage, everything should be taken care of itself. Even in the future, bootloader updates will be taken care of with ETHOS Suite. So the first thing to do is to get hold of ETHOS Suite. So this page will be familiar to a lot of people if you've been using ETHOS for a while. This is the ETHOS feedback community on GitHub. And this is where in the past we've downloaded the firmware and all that sort of stuff. But today we're just going to go to the latest release to download ETHOS Suite itself. Now it's not actually there, which is a good thing, because if it's not there when you look, I can now show you how to find it. So it's not in the latest release, it just means that it didn't need an update with this version of the firmware. So what we'll do is just click on releases. And what we're going to do is go down to the next release and see if it's in there. So open up assets, and it's not needed in there. So let's try 1.3.0, and it's not in there either. I've got a feeling it's in 1.2.11, which is the next one. So yeah, there have been updates to Suite, so it will be in this one. But if there's any newer versions going forward, start at the latest release and work backwards until you find it. So what we have in the assets is an ETHOS Suite setup, two ETHOS Suite setup files. One is for Mac, one is for Windows. So I will be downloading the Windows version. I'm going to stick that on the desktop, and then I'll come back once that's all downloaded. Okay, so we've downloaded the installation file. All we need to do is double click this. If you get any warnings about Windows being protected, just click more info and run anyway. And this should proceed to install ETHOS Suite. Now, once you've installed it, it does seem to take care of updating itself automatically. I've had it open before, closed it, and then when I reopened it, it's on a newer version. So that's a really good thing. So once we've got it installed, we shouldn't really need to worry about updates for ETHOS Suite itself. If you get one of these user account boxes, choose yes, and then we get the actual installation. So I put mine on my D drive, but of course install it where you want on your computer. And once it's installed, again, I'll come back with the actual program. Okay, so it's all done. It's got a little tick box for run ETHOS Suite, so let's click finish and get the actual program up. Okay, so here is our interface for ETHOS Suite. Now, you may have seen this if you'd seen my sort of earlier video going from 1.1 to 1.2, which does use ETHOS Suite. But the whole point of this video is to only use ETHOS Suite. So it's got a little note here to say that the bootloader must be on version 1.2.1 or newer, which obviously I know that that isn't. So it'll be interesting to see how it handles it. It mightn't be that this version doesn't upload the bootloader because of the bootloader I currently have. I know newer versions do. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just plug in the transmitter. Okay, so all we're going to do is power on. I'll turn my sound off. You can skip any warnings or anything like that. And then we're just going to plug in our USB, which is on the top. So this works with obviously the X20, X18 and anything else that's on ETHOS. And what we're going to do is choose FrSky Suite. Because this is already on a 1.2 firmware, we do get to see this option. So like I said, if you're on an older version, you will need to go through the previous process just to get onto ETHOS Suite. But yeah, just click ETHOS Suite and then we're back to the computer. Okay, so Windows will discover a few drives as normal. And then what we'll do is get this option here for the X20 radio. Of course, this will be X18, X10, X12, whatever radio you've got, it will appear here. Disappeared because Windows is still messing about with getting the drives hooked up. But once they're all there, it should stabilize. So what we're going to do is just click on X20. And what you'll get on screen is the latest firmware releases. You get a few more options like English, and it will show you what's currently on your radio. So it knows that we're on Flex, the Flex version of the firmware. We're on 1.2.8 and it's out of date. We know that the audio is out of date and everything else is also out of date. So to actually update the radio, we need to be in bootloader mode. But to get there, all we need to do is click this button, which will restart the radio in bootloader mode. So we just rebooted, so let's select X20S again. You notice that the go to bootloader mode has now changed to a start ETHOS button. What that does is actually the opposite. So it takes you out of bootloader mode and puts you back into ETHOS. So it's now showing that the flash is out of date as well. And it's nice that it gives you all the version numbers. I don't know if the bootloader will update. As I say, in newer versions, it definitely does because I've done it on my X18. But it'd just be interesting to see how this goes. And what we can do is just click this button to only update the outdated components. So instead of downloading every audio language, it just downloads what we need. So it's much better. If you click the button here, it shows you other options. So you can just update the system bitmaps, update everything. You can choose what you want. But I'm just going to use update outdated components. Once we're happy with that, once our language is right, we just click this side of the button to start the process. So this will now download everything we need and install it on the radio. So again, I'm just going to let this run through because it's just a progress bar, nothing interesting to watch. See you on the other side. So just a quick interruption while this is going on. You can actually see on the radio that it's actually just doing the update now. And it's saying that if the auto update doesn't complete successfully, just to finish it manually, but this is still going through. So if this box pops up, don't worry about it. It's just taking time and it's not recognized that it's finished yet. So we're just going to wait for the firmware to finish writing on the radio and then see what happens. If it doesn't come back, we can manually finish the process. So it's got USB connected now. So it has actually written the firmware, but it just hasn't worked out that it's finished. So I'm just going to click this finish button and then it's going to switch into the firmware mode. Which again, it does seem to be stuck. Now this could be because I'm on the older version of the bootloader. So usually this is not the case. Like I said, when I updated the X18, it just went straight through. None of this came up at all. But seeing as this has come up, I think this is a good thing for the video because if any of you guys encounter this, then we can get it sorted out. So all I'm going to do is disconnect the USB cable. I'm going to power off the radio. I'm going to power it back on. So at this point we should be on the latest version, so let's check it. Yep, we're on 1.3.2, so that's all good. But obviously the bootloader is probably still on the older version. So let's get back to the main screen and I'll plug in the USB and once again we will choose FrSky Suite, which is ETHOS Suite. So now it's recognized it, it's going to continue. So it started downloading the bootloader now, so it might even do the update. Yeah, so we do need to actually flash the bootloader manually. So what I'll do is I'll finish this and I'll close this down. If we go into X20, yeah, it's still showing the out-of-date bootloader. So what I'm going to do now is just show you how to update the bootloader manually. Once we get above, I think mine was at 1.2.10. Once it was above that, it will work automatically. So let's get the latest version. So let me just close the ETHOS Suite for a minute and we'll go back to the GitHub. Now, I do believe the latest bootloader is actually in this version 1.2.11, but I will check for later ones just to make sure. So yeah, not there. Not there. Yeah, so the latest bootloader at this point in time is in this 1.2.11. Again, if there's a newer version of ETHOS out, I would make sure to check those first. But what we're going to do is find the bootloader for this radio. So I want X20S bootloader. So I'll just download that to the desktop and let's minimize this. So now what we need to do is open up Windows Explorer and we're going to find the SD card for our transmitter. Now it should be here. Right, let me just restart the, let's just restart the transmitter. And let's plug in the USB again and FrSky Suite. There we go. So we're just looking for our SD card from the transmitter. I mean, this will probably disappear and come back again because it's Windows. And while it's doing that, I'll just find that zip file that we downloaded. Okay, so Windows has stabilized. This is the SD card. I've shown in previous videos how to rename the drives and how to find which is which, but just in case you haven't seen those, when you plug in the transmitters, you'll get 2 drives for the X20 or 3 drives for the X18. There is one drive, if you right click on it and go to properties, there's one drive that is around about 8 megabytes. This is the flash drive. So I just named mine X20S, the name of the radio. If you right click on the other drive and go properties, this will be the size of the SD card. I've changed my SD card to a 32 gigabyte SD card. The standard one I believe is 8 gigabytes. So whatever the size of your SD card, you'll see that around about there. So you can see here it's 32 billion whatever bytes. So that is the 32 gigabyte card. So to rename, you just right click, choose rename, and then give it an appropriate name. So there's X20S SD for SD card. With the X18, you will also get a third drive, and the size of this will vary depending on whether you have the standard X18 or the X18S. So if we click on X18, I believe there's a table in here which will tell us. So yeah, if you right click on the other drive, you'll have one that's about 128 megabytes or 512 megabytes, depending on if you have the 18 or the 18S. And that is the NAND storage, which is internal storage on the transmitter, like the SD card, but faster, where you can store things like the model images, all that sort of stuff. So they are the 3 drives. So with the X18, you could be putting these firmware files on the SD card or on the NAND storage. I'd personally use the SD card because speed doesn't really matter with these and it's just taking up space. This firmware folder is something that I've created to organize the SD card. So to create a new folder, if we go click on the SD card, right click, choose new and folder, you can create whatever folders you want. Models, scripts, screenshots, bitmaps and audio are generic ETHOS folders. Firmware is the one that I've created. So I've also created subfolders. This is a file for the transmitter and this is the X20S bootloader. So you can see I've already got one in here from when I did the first update, but what we're going to do is replace it with the latest. So I'm just going to copy in this one to replace the one that's in there. And then what we're going to do is unplug the USB cable and head back to the transmitter. So when you unplug the USB cable, the transmitter will reset and it will be as if you've just turned it on. What we're going to do is head into the system menu and go to File Manager. From there, we need to select our correct storage space. So I've put it in the SD card. If you've got the X18, this usually defaults to the NAND drive. So if you've put it on the SD card, just make sure to select the SD card on this top folder. So that's the flash drive, that's the SD. If you've got NAND, it will appear as a separate option. Now we're going to go down to the firmware folder that was created, into the transmitters folder, and we're going to go to X20S bootloader. Now this is the file that we installed. What we're going to do is click on that and then choose Flash Bootloader. Now I would recommend having as much battery as possible in this. It's quite a quick process, but you just don't want it to go out when it's doing this update. So the bootloader has been flashed. So what we're going to do now is power cycle. And when we switch on, if we hold down the enter key and just quick click, we should now see that bootloader is on version 1.2.11. So we're on the latest bootloader and everything in ETHOS Suite should work fine now. I did have a question from someone on YouTube saying that the version number was different to ETHOS Suite. Don't worry about it. So long as it's on the latest version, it will be fine. Going forward from 2.1. As I said, I believe it was 2.1.10, it will automatically update the bootloader for you in ETHOS Suite. So let's get back out of this. I'm going to just do a regular power on. USB cable can go back in. And we'll choose FrSky Suite. Okay, so we're back on the computer. That's all plugged in. It's on ETHOS Suite mode and the Windows has stopped messing about with the drivers. So now if we click on X20S, we should see everything is up to date. If I was to do the update again, well, it should actually just not do anything because everything's up to date. Let's have a look. Yeah, straight to update successful. But if there is a new version, you don't need to worry about those hang-ups anymore. It will automatically update the firmware, update the bootloader, and you saw anyway that it updated the system boot maps and audio automatically anyway. So you can see that this is, going forward, a much simpler way of doing it. Plug in the radio, go to ETHOS or FrSky Suite. In here, go to bootloader, which I believe actually if you click the update, it will automatically do for you as well. So let's go there. It's all up to date. Once you say this is out of date, you just click this button and it will update everything for you. Now I'm saying everything, but there is one thing that it does not update, and that is the internal RF module, which obviously on these radios is a TD ISRM module. On the X10S and the X12S, they are just ISRM modules. So it does not update that at the moment, but I believe that this is something that FrSky are looking into, so that this will also update the RF firmware too. So I hope this video has been useful for you guys, and you can see that this is a really quick and easy way to update the radio now. Once we've got ETHOS Suite installed, and if we have to update the bootloader, once that's done, we don't have to go to GitHub anymore. It's just plug it in, do the update, and it's all done. The only thing I'm not sure about, oh yeah, it's got an update news. So if you open up ETHOS Suite, it will give you the latest release information here. So that's the only thing, is knowing when a new update is available. I think we still need to pop into ETHOS Suite or check social media. So whenever a new update's released, it usually pops up on a FrSky or the ETHOS groups in Facebook, or checking the GitHub. That will be where the release information is. So the only things that it's really not giving us at the moment with regards to the updates is an alert when a new update is available, and also the ISRM module update. But hopefully that's something that can come in the future. But I'm sure any of you that have had ETHOS for a while will agree that this is a big step forward in making it much easier to use. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. If it has, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and please remember to click the subscribe and the bell icon. That will help get this video out to more people. but also will give you alerts if something else like this pops up, which you might find useful. Videos on my channel are all about RC flying, particularly fixed wing, so you might find some other useful content there. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Fly models like you stole them. See you on the next one.